Sociopaths do not exist. What? We need to investigate. To help us do that, I'm going to access some articles, links in the description. I won't cover every aspect of each of the articles. I will encourage you, of course, to read them. I think they're very interesting. Let's begin here. How sociopaths and psychopaths are different. You've probably heard of a sociopath, a psychopath. In popular culture, both words are often used to refer to someone who doesn't seem to care about right or wrong, tends to manipulate others, or has a hard time understanding other people's feelings. But you won't find definitions of either in the latest version of Mental Health's official handbook, the Diagnostic and Statistical Manual of Mental Disorders. Doctors don't officially diagnose people as psychopaths or sociopaths. They use a different term instead, antisocial personality disorder. What, they don't diagnose as psychopaths or sociopaths? So does that mean that psychopaths don't exist either? From the same article, still, some experts do use psychopathy to describe certain behaviours that can be part of ASPD, antisocial personality disorder, and sociopathy to mean the same thing as ASPD. So they use psychopathy to describe certain behaviours that are part of ASPD and sociopathy to mean the same thing. Hold on. Wait a minute. In fact, sociopathy is a former name for ASPD. Sociopathy is the former name for antisocial personality disorder. Some light amidst the murkiness. This is interesting. Let's then explore ASPD from this article here. Symptoms and criteria for antisocial personality disorder. According to the DSM-5, there are 4 diagnostic criterion, of which criterion A has 7 sub-features. So A, disregard for and violation of others' rights since age 15 is indicated by one of the 7 sub-features. Failure to obey, this is number 1, failure to obey laws and norms by engaging in behaviour which results in criminal arrest or would warrant criminal arrest. Lying, deception, manipulation for profit or self-amusement. Impulsive behaviour, irritability and aggression manifests as frequently assaults others or engages in fighting. Blatantly disregards safety of self and others. A pattern of irresponsibility and a lack of remorse for actions. The other diagnostic criteria are B, a person is at least age 18. And then we have C and D. C, conduct disorder was present by history before age 15. D, and the antisocial behaviour does not occur in the context of schizophrenia or bipolar disorder. Again, presumption there is that there could be a reason for the antisocial behaviour, in this case because of potentially schizophrenia or bipolar disorder. Let's then go to this article here, Sociopath v Psychopath. What's the difference? And neither apparently exist at the moment. What is a sociopath? I think things will become clearer as we go along. The term sociopathy was coined in the era of behaviorism between 1920 to 1950 as a primary psychological theory, but it has since fallen out of use. Now, the behaviorism, well, that was people like Watson and Skinner and Pavlov, and the idea being that there was a stimulus and response, or stimuli and reactions. One of the issues with behaviorism is that it's quite reductionist. It's not wrong, but it doesn't take into account things like personality and free will. This term has not been used in modern science for several decades. Really, several decades. So that's interesting. For example, you cannot get funding from the National Institute of Health to study sociopaths, says Kent Keel, PhD, a neuroscientist studying brain imaging. I think that's meant to be. It's a brilliant typo, that one. If Kent is studying brain imaging, I want to get to the lab. Criminal psychopathy and other psychotic disorders in Albuquerque, New Mexico. When the term was still in use, it was believed that people were born as blank slates and subsequently shaped by their environment or social forces, ultimately resulting in a good or bad personality. Now, I think it's fair to say that, first of all, people aren't blank slates, but they also can be shaped by their environment or social forces. So let's hang on to that. However, this view was determined to be incorrect, and as focus shifted to increasing accuracy and reliability in diagnosis, the term sociopathy was dropped from the Diagnostic and Statistical Manual of Mental Disorders about 20 years ago. I see. Okay, so the term was there, it was dropped. Let's then go here. Psychopathy and sociopathy causes. Again, using terminology that isn't in the DSM-5 as such. It was not a diagnostic criterion. But anyway, let's keep going. While sociopathy, when the term was still in use, was a disorder believed to stem from a person's environment, psychopathy is believed to arise mostly from biology and genetics with some environmental influence, though research on psychopathy's causes is ongoing. There's a lot of current research examining how biology / social forces interact and contribute to the development of psychopathic traits, says Keel. We generally review primary psychopathy as coming from a larger biology genetic component, contrasted with secondary psychopathy, which is hypothesized to come from more social forces such as bad parenting or perhaps trauma as a child, contributing more than biology. Haha. So that sounds to me as if what we're saying there is that primary psychopathy is the old and obviously current idea about the causes of psychopathy and how the psychopath may behave. What we have here is secondary psychopathy, which sounds more like the original sociopath, that it was to do with these forces such as parenting or trauma, upbringing, environment to a degree. So is that then where sociopathy will ultimately lie? Because as we'll see, it doesn't exist. It's not an actual term that is encouraged to be used by professionals or indeed anybody else. So let's go to this article to finish off. This is a slightly older article, but not that old, 2018, difference between the psychopath and so-called sociopath. Now, I just wanted to cover this part of it because I think it's quite succinct. Until there is a reconciliation of these similar but different terms, antisocial and psychopathic, they will continue to be inaccurately used as synonyms, and the non-clinical term sociopath will continue to be used. So let's pause there for a second. So essentially what this author is saying is that antisocial and psychopathic are different. That's the first contention. And I agree, absolutely. And sociopath, the non-clinical term, will continue to be used. Because what is being said here is that psychopathy or psychopath is used. It is used professionally, but sociopathy shouldn't be, although some people still use it. Until a change takes place, mental health professionals should refer to either antisocial personality, the term endorsed by the American Psychological Association, or psychopathic traits. So mental health professionals should refer to either antisocial personality or psychopathic traits. And it goes on to say that the term endorsed by HARE and used in the assessment of psychopathy by many major law enforcement institutions. And the water gets muddied slightly there at the end again as well, because the Hare psychopathy checklist also has its critics, and one of the criticisms is that it looks mainly at the sort of criminal element and misses out those other psychopaths who are around in, let's say, the corporate world, for example. And recently, and I've also talked about this, it would seem that there are many more female psychopaths out there than at first the research seemed to indicate. I think a lot of people guessed that, but now we have something else in the mix. But for the moment, in terms of this, sociopaths, sociopathy, then they don't exist clinically, and if people are using the term, it is frowned upon. Psychopaths do exist in the sense that they can be diagnosed, but not from within the DSM. That's where antisocial personality disorder resides, of which psychopathy and potentially sociopathy are parts, but psychopathy, the psychopath idea, is used. It is accepted by a lot of people, and it is diagnosed using certain instruments. But sociopathy, no. Isn't that odd? But we have a clue with this secondary psychopathy that Kent Keel mentions in that article that could be the place, and I think actually should be the place, where some of those more sociopathic traits and tendencies and personalities would reside. What do you think?